Questions?
You want me to speak?
Utkarsh question.
Icebreaker.
Okay, question.
उत्कर्ष ने लिख के लाया सब कुछ.
हाँ, कुछ लोगों से भी ready with questions, so I don't know.
Sure.
But probably I've been trying to read around this for some time now, so I want to know more in that. So the question is, what exactly is consciousness from the Krishna consciousness point of view? Is it the same as awareness, meaning being aware of Krishna in everything we do, or is it something deeper connected to the soul? And does it have any relationship when we die and take rebirth? Does it go along with that? From that perspective, what exactly is consciousness?
So let me just summarize it. What is consciousness, specifically from the Krishna conscious point of view? And is it simply awareness, or is there a deeper connection with the soul? And does consciousness transcend death? Does it go to another existence after death? Did I summarize it properly? So, interesting question. Krishna consciousness, as we understand it, in our gatherings, the gatherings where we discuss teachings of the Vedic philosophy, according to how the institution ISKCON presents it, or more specifically, how it has been passed down to us from the founder Acharya of ISKCON, the founder person of ISKCON, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So this Krishna consciousness in that format was predominantly available in the late 1960s. Before that, it was popular in various parts of India as God consciousness, even as Krishna consciousness, or just Sanatan Dharmas, etc., etc., etc. So basically, Krishna consciousness it can be considered to be a synonym for Sanatan Dharma. The reason being, in 1966, when this movement was established, when this institution was established in New York, a suggestion was given to our Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. So His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, is affectionately called as Srila Prabhupada within ISKCON. So Srila Prabhupada was given the suggestion that why don't you, to make this movement more acceptable, why don't you call this movement the International Society for God Consciousness? So he said, God is Krishna. So from Srila Prabhupada's point of view and his teachings, Krishna is just a synonym for God. Later on, he would explain, as we became more accustomed to the Vedic dictionary, the understanding that the word Krishna, when we address the supreme existence as Krishna, Sarva Akarshati iti Krishna. That is the understanding. So that is how the Vedic dictionary explains the meaning of the word Krishna. Sarva Akarshati. That which can attract every other existence of consciousness towards one is Krishna. Sarva Karshati Krishna. Hence, Prabhupada said Krishna is God and God is Krishna. So that was his understanding. Obviously, um, in Bharatvarsha, the land of India, Krishna is the name is quite popular, and there are so many various ways that people understand what Krishna means. So we are just etymologically why Krishna is God and God is Krishna is explained by Prabhupada. So then he explained what is Krishna consciousness. He said this idea of being conscious of Krishna is Krishna consciousness. So it's not just awareness, it's also realization. I may be aware of the laws of this country. However, when I follow the laws and get some benefits, or if I disobey the laws and get some retribution, then I understand I have a realization of what the laws of this country mean. So consciousness, according to how ISKCON understands it, is to be aware of the supreme existence. So this understanding of the supreme existence is from a certain point of view, a certain perspective. Therefore, there has to be at least two parts to this understanding. One is the observer and the other is the observed. But if consciousness is universal, then how do I understand it as observer and observed? How do I make that distinction? Or in simple words, if Krishna or God or the Supreme encompasses all, everything has been included within that, then if I make a distinction between an observer and the observed, then the observer may not be God or the observed may not be God. Make sense? So how do we deal with that? So it's very simple. Since the omnipotent Lord, omnipotent means very powerful. The omnipotent Lord has multiple potencies. One of the Lord's potencies is to do amazing tasks. That is called as Aishwarya Yoga in Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita ji states, Pashyame Yogam Aishwarya. It is called as Aishwarya Yoga, the opulence of the Supreme Lord. And therein, the verse, the two texts, there are two verses, they explain this dilemma. Where Krishna is speaking to Arjuna and he's explaining that, Arjuna, look at my potency. I am present in everything and still nothing exists in me. I am present in everything. Nothing exists in me. All that is within me and still I am beyond them. So then we ask, how is that possible? He says, that is my Aishwarya Yoga. I can do that. I can be one, and at the same time, if I present myself as two, the two is still one, at the same time, the two is not one. And the Upanishads explain this Purnamada, Purnamidam. Purnat, Purnam, Udachyate. This is Purna, that is Purna, and Purnat from completeness, from Purna. So this is complete, that is complete. From complete arises completeness, and what remains back is also complete. And what has been produced is also complete. Okay? Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. So that is the idea of being omnipotent. So the universe, this Supreme Lord, expands himself specifically as me. So I now become part and parcel. So now I'm separate and at the same time not separate. So because I'm separate, I become the observer and separate from the Lord. Therefore, the Lord becomes the observed. So when I, as an observer, observe the Lord and realize the Lord, Hare Krishna. Okay, this doesn't work. Thank you. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. So when I, as an observer, being the complete part and parcel, observe the Lord in everything, including me, within and without, when I observe that, that is called as consciousness. And to be more specific, it is called as Krishna consciousness. So when I observe my existence to be non-different from Krishna's existence, I see myself as Satchidananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. So that is the realization. There has to be realization. This realization is the very nature of me. So if I have to define myself, I have to say I am Satchidananda. I am consciousness. Consciousness is very interesting. Consciousness can exhibit itself. It cannot be really well defined by classical physics. So then what do we need to understand consciousness? Quantum. Quantum understanding. Quantum understanding is my understanding of consciousness could be a little different from your understanding of consciousness. But it has to be within the same realm. It has to be within the same realm. But because I may only see a certain aspect which for me is complete and full, somebody else may see another aspect. Okay? So when I observe myself as being Satchidanand, I also realize that I am part of the whole. But at the same time, I'm also not different from the whole. This awareness cannot be limited by anything external. So coming back to classical and quantum. So what is quantum? Quantum understanding. Consciousness exhibits that. Consciousness can exhibit itself as this material body. It can exhibit itself as matter, or it can exhibit itself as non-matter. Just depends on the observer. So if I'm an observer with realization of consciousness, or chetana as we call it, I can either observe you as this body, or I can observe you, or I can see you as spirit. When I see you as spirit, I see that your timeline of as spirit is uninterrupted. When I see you as the body, I see your timeline has a beginning and an end. So there is a birth, there is death. But if I see you as spirit, then even before this body, there's existence, there is this body, and after this body, there will be existence. So consciousness is not carried by the soul. Consciousness is the soul. How is that? Just as when one has fever, that fever itself is the disease. Is it true? Or is fever and disease different? No, I did not say if I have disease. I said if I have fever. And I'm not saying disease in the terms of just a medical ailment. Dis-ease, something that is not healthy for me. So if I have a fever, that fever itself is a disease, or is it different from a disease? It is a disease. But how do I say? How do I make it relevant in conversation? I say, my fever is the symptom that I have some disease. Because that is how conversation takes place. Therefore, when there has to be conversation, then consciousness is the symptom of the soul. How do I know in this material body soul exists? The soul is carrying this body. How do I know it? The symptom is consciousness. So because I have consciousness, I exist. What is it? I am. So I exist, or something like that. Some philosophy. So because I'm conscious, I exist. So consciousness is simply the expression of me being part and parcel of the supreme whole. Is it all right? So this is how consciousness is defined and is come to be aware of Krishna and everything is consciousness. We call it Krishna consciousness. Simple words, to be conscious of Krishna always is consciousness of Krishna consciousness. And when I'm trying to explain it in words, I would say consciousness is a symptom of my soul, which is basically not a completely correct statement, but at least it gets the message across. Because then I have to start imagining what is my soul. I can understand my body, but my soul is, it is too theoretical. So how do I understand my soul? So there I say consciousness is, the presence of consciousness indicates the presence of my soul, which is me actually. And does death have any effect on consciousness? No. Since consciousness is eternal, that will not have effect on consciousness. However, I said consciousness has a very interesting way of presenting itself. So, in a state of existence called as illusion, imagining who I am not and believing that, in that state, my consciousness can appear to be exhibiting itself in bursts and pockets like, oh, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm awake, I'm asleep, which no one can actually express. But then it's an idea that you have in books, I am asleep. No one ever understands they are asleep. But everyone is convinced that I'm asleep. We have no idea of what it means when I'm asleep. Right? So this is how consciousness presents itself. I'm dead, I'm alive, etc., etc., etc. So consciousness can do that. The Chetana can do that. That is philosophy. All right? So if this is Krishna, then how do I relate with it? If this is Krishna, how do I relate with it? If she is Krishna, how do I relate? My wife, my husband, that is Krishna, how do I relate with that? My children, Krishna, my grandfather, children, teachers, Krishna. The river, Krishna, the earth is Krishna, the trees are Krishna, the bee is Krishna, the birds are Krishna. How do I relate with all of that? So in Sanatan Dharma, since generations, thousands and thousands of generations, intellectual people have really put a lot of effort in defining all of this. And depending upon their realization, various schools of thoughts are there. Right? Like every school will teach you to be an engineer, or they will teach you to be a physician. Every medical school or engineering school will do that. But every engineering school, because the teachers follow their own way of teaching, they may come up with special, their own special techniques of how to understand the subject. So there are different schools of thought accordingly, because every teacher has their own way of, or their own perspectives that they present. Is that helpful? Did we सबको समझ में आया? हाँ, ठीक से समझ में आ गया? Okay. Yes, just a minute. Clear? Or was it क्या उसको बोलते हैं? Did you feel it was a play of words? Was the message received, or do you think it was simply a play of words? कभी-कभी play of words is good, but we never understand.
Words. You said consciousness is soul.
Symptom of soul.
Symptom of soul, right? And then later on you said symptom of soul. So I want you to clarify. So consciousness is soul or consciousness?
I said when I have to make a conversation, I have to tell someone what is consciousness. That is the only way I can say. Just as I will say my soul, but actually that is not completely correct. I cannot be different from my soul. Similarly, consciousness cannot be different from soul. But when I have to make a conversation with someone, that is how it presented. The presentation would be consciousness is a symptom of the soul. The soul is conscious, and what is conscious is soul. That is how it is.
And then the next thing, so his question
Quite low.
Okay. So the next question he had was, so does the consciousness goes with the soul, right? So
Did you ask that, or what happens to
After
consciousness
death,
after
yeah.
death?
What happens after death? So
Death.
when we
Does a consciousness go ahead after death? That was the
Yes.
question.
Yes.
is it carried forward?
Is it carried forward? So there was no
And
mention
where,
of soul.
right?
It was
And
nowhere. Where wasn't there?
Yeah, where was
Where was not a part, but you can ask if you want. I think there were three parts to his question, if I remember it
No, I
correctly.
want to know
First
the
of all,
last
what
part.
is consciousness? Second part is, I forget the second part, and third part is, after death, does a consciousness go ahead?
First was Krishna consciousness.
That was the
Is
question.
it just
Just what is conscious? Yeah, second part was, is it just awareness, or is it having any other deeper connection to the soul? Thank you. Yes, that was the second part.
Can you clarify the third part?
Consciousness goes
With the soul.
soul after death.
That is your question. It is not his question.
His question. So your question, what happens? Does consciousness goes along with the soul?
So what I understood is soul and consciousness are the same. So it has to.
You understood. The question that came across was, what happens to consciousness after death? Basically, I'm rephrasing it. At death, does the consciousness transcend death? All right.
So, anybody has any questions?
So there was a follow-up question to that
First,
third
I'll
one.
ask her follow-up question. Okay, follow-up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here, follow-up question.
See,
First, you
the third one only I want to clarify. So the third point which he asked, so the question is that if I leave the body and my soul goes out of this body, does it take that consciousness in the next, so if I go to next life, so I leave this body, then next life, next whatever body I take, that soul and that consciousness comes with that, like, so it carries the consciousness.
Okay. All right.
Great.
All
Yeah,
right.
I think I'm trying to,
Yes,
to
let me see.
understand
Let
what
me
you're
see if
saying,
I
just
let me
clarify.
again repeat your question, and let you can tell me if I've understood it. So, at death or after death, my soul is going to leave the body and go into another body or whatever its next destination is. So, does the consciousness also go along with my soul? Is that rephrasing it properly? Is it what you're asking? The idea that I leave the body, my body, is basically conscious awareness.
Conscious.
Awareness that I am leaving the body. I am aware. So if I'm not conscious, how the body doesn't say that the soul is leaving me. The body has no consciousness at death. Correct? The body will not say my soul is leaving me. The soul will say, since the soul was identifying with the body, the soul will say, my soul is leaving my body. That is what the soul sees. This is what philosophy tells us. Whether you and I have seen that, maybe we've lost memory of it, but based on what the philosophical books tell us, we have been through it. Okay? So when I say that I leave the body, what happens to me after my soul leaves the body? Basically, we are asking if, or we are already accepting that I'm conscious. So as long as we remember that I am the conscious person who's consciously asking when I leave the body and go to somewhere. So that is me. I'm still conscious. But that is not the complete expression of consciousness. I said consciousness, complete expression is Krishna is in everything. So when I am leaving the body as the observer, consciousness that should be there is Krishna is coming with me, Krishna is taking me to a new destination. Being aware, being conscious of that, having that realization. Makes sense? Okay, so it's not just the soul carrying its consciousness, the soul remembering one's relationship with Krishna. When one does not, then it's by the laws of nature that one will go to whatever destination. But if one remembers oneself as being a conscious being, Chetana, what is Chetana? Conscious being. All right? If one remembers oneself as being Chetan, then one will remember also have the understanding that now on this journey, this is my relationship with Krishna. Is it okay? Helpful? Yeah. Is it all right? Because he had his hand first, then you can ask, and after that, Karthik, right? Yes.
Is there a difference between consciousness of a kid and adult? Is there any difference between consciousness of good, bad, or it doesn't have property? Just that, that's it. Because when I was a kid, I don't remember there was something different. Now, because I get confused with intelligence and consciousness. Because now, of course, I may be a little better than when I was a kid, but consciousness and intelligence kind of confusing.
Okay. All right. So we have certain um, ways of dealing in this world, certain criteria like good and bad. So, is there a difference between the consciousness of good and the consciousness of bad? Then there is various kind of beings, like me being a parent or me being a kid and now me being an adult. So is there a difference between the consciousness of a child and the consciousness of an adult? These are two questions, right? And there was a third part. Sorry, I missed out. Do you remember?
It was like, I get confused with intelligence. Like,
Correct, intelligence. So there is also the understanding of intelligence and what is the difference or the relationship between intelligence and consciousness. Okay. All right. So that is a follow-up question on consciousness. So right now, where we all of us are aware of our existence as being alive. So one of the ways that consciousness exhibits itself is it is alive. What we understand as alive. It is not dead. So alive means there is perception. The dead cannot perceive. Okay? So each one of us is alive. Now our existence from philosophical point of view is called as embodied existence. Sharir Baddha, bound by a body. Now this body, according to the same philosophical books, is called as material body. Okay? And material body is functioning. The way the material body functions is through senses. That is how perception happens. So the instruments of perception are called as senses or indriya. Indriya are of two types, or the instruments of perception are of two types. One perception is in terms of what do you understand, receiving knowledge or gaining knowledge. So they are called as knowledge acquiring senses. That is how there's perception. Oh, I feel cold. Oh, I feel it is dark there. So perception. You receive data, you receive information. So they are called as knowledge acquiring senses or jnanendriya. There's another way of perception too, through the effect of certain events, activities, emotions, etc. The effect that is called as karmendriya or senses involved in action. Karmendriya. These are the only way or ways that the material body can function. It can be the body of a human, any of the species. This is the only way the material body can function and express perceptions. For example, a lion running away or we running away will immediately feel tired, will have some emotions too. So that is perception too. I'm getting tired. I'm getting thirsty. I'm feeling hungry. These are all karmendriyas working. What are the jnanendriyas perception? This is looks tasty. This tastes bitter. This sounds harmful. So these give you some certain conception. So there's some perception like that. So we understand this now. Now a lot of data comes every moment because that is what is time. Time every moment will give you so much data, information for perception. Every single person will have that in this embodied state. Sharir Baddha. Data has to be analyzed. Who will analyze the data? The dead body cannot do it. Therefore, consciousness that is considering itself to be the dead body, but because consciousness is alive, so the consciousness cannot think this is dead. So now the body becomes alive. So now consciousness feels I am this alive body. And therefore consciousness is completely convinced now that this is the only way I can function. So starts functioning through the senses. Now it needs something to help it analyze situations. So that instrument that consciousness uses beyond the senses, that which is connecting its idea that I am this body to the data that it is receiving, to the perception that it is having, that router, that is intelligence. It will analyze, filter. Therefore, intelligence is called as buddhi. Buddhi means that which can clearly, with intense clarity, sift things. Cut, sift it. Sifting, sifting? Sand sifting. So, sifter. So, that is what intelligence does, filters it out. Hence, it is called as subtle. Like a router, the function of a router is very subtle, converting one form of energy into another. So, that is what the intelligence does. It converts this energy, which comes in the form of data, sensual data. It converts it into what seems to be embodied consciousness. Interesting machine, isn't it? The intelligence. Okay. So is the intelligence different from the consciousness? In one way, no. Why I say no? Because every intelligence is the intellectual property of the individual consciousness. So I and that which I identified cannot be different. So from that point of view, it is not different. It is my intelligence, just as it is my consciousness, my soul. So it is my intelligence. But functionally, it is different. Why? Because the intelligence is analyzing the data that the embodied consciousness is receiving. So functionally, it is different. It is just a tool used by Chetana or consciousness. Is that all right? Helpful? Yeah? I'm not sure what we are going to do with all of this information. But because all these words float around in so many gatherings and so many, discussions like that, it is helpful to figure out what is what, isn't it? So then, yes, your follow-up question. Then Karthik, then you're again there. Nantar.
Follow-up question.
Keep it with you. आप कतार में हैं.
Really, my question is really connected to this consciousness traveling when it leaves the body. Does it dies and the soul goes to next body?
Okay. I think, all right, let me rephrase it. Okay.
No, one more.
The second part.
Yeah, last week we were reading about 7 chapters, I think 6 or 7 shlokas. So there it was like, sometimes if you get to Krishna consciousness and you attain that Goloka or Vaikuntha, and there also if you do something wrong, you can come back. So the idea was that once you attain Krishna, you are pure. You can't be separated, right? You will cut the life and death cycle. But then the Dwarpals, right? Jai Vijay, they did something and they came back. So we were trying to understand why they came back, why everything is not pure there. Like nothing can be contaminated there, right? Once you're there, it's absolute.
Correct.
So when I was born, why I don't have any recollection of what I was before?
Oh, that's third part.
So my question is, consciousness died before. So consciousness dies, the soul travels, and it arrives at new consciousness. And if you raise your consciousness to Krishna's level, then the soul attains Goloka. But the consciousness again died, but you raised your consciousness so high that it took your soul to Krishna's place. what's going on? I'm trying to understand that.
Okay. Oh, nice. Let me see if I can rephrase the question. But suddenly I realized that I did not really address about kid. I did not, right?
Yeah,
I'm so
yeah.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I just explained about intelligence, consciousness, but is the consciousness of a kid and adult different? And consciousness of goodness and the consciousness of that which is bad, are they different, right? Okay, I'll try to address that too. Let me rephrase. Um, does consciousness die when the body is dead, and is it reborn again? Because we studied the episode of Jay and Vijay, who were the doorkeepers, Dwarpas at Vaikuntha. So obviously they are beyond this material world, or they do not have a material body, so they come here. So when we, after we have fully Krishna conscious, or a soul that is fully Krishna conscious goes to the spiritual world, will they come back again? And if they do come back again, why? Why would they come back? Or why did Jay and Vijay come here? And I do not remember past life, or I do not remember why I came here, right? So that was the third part, isn't it? There are three parts. Okay. First, let me see if I can go back to. I'll link your question about difference between consciousness of good and bad. Is it there? And kid and adult. And does consciousness die at death? And then a new consciousness comes. Taking, continuing from the answer of the previous question, I said the previous two questions. The first point I said was consciousness here in the world that we live in has a very interesting way of presenting itself. It's not classical. It depends on the observer, right? It depends upon the performer, on the conscious person. So any species of life, any species, that consciousness, which naturally should be inclined to seeing Krishna in everything, that consciousness, due to a particular feature, and we'll describe what that feature is, it starts believing that it is this body. I didn't do it on purpose. So it starts believing and accepts the fact that it is a dog, it is a cat, it is a kid, it is an adult. I didn't do it on purpose. Okay, that consciousness starts accepting that. And because the consciousness starts accepting itself to be the body, so it feels that the body is alive. It does not see the distinction that because I am in the body, therefore the body is alive. That distinction is lost. Just as when we are in the car, then we are moving at the speed of the car, right? We will start feeling that we are moving at 70 miles an hour. We lose a distinction that we, as a human body, can never achieve such a speed on our own. So the identification with the instrument becomes very strong. And I actually traveled at 70 miles an hour. Technically speaking, the car was traveling 70 miles an hour, and because I was in the car, therefore I was traveling 70. But we start believing that I can do it. I can travel 70 miles an hour, I can travel 80 miles an hour, right? Similarly, start believing that we can fly at 400 miles an hour. The human body cannot sustain it. If there's no cabin pressure, this body cannot sustain it. So truthfully speaking, this body cannot move at 400 miles an hour. Impossible. But we also accept that we do. because we start identifying ourselves with the instrument, with the plane. Make sense? Now that distinction is not very difficult to understand. This distinction is not really very easy to unravel. The idea that I am this body is not very easy to unravel. So a dog will believe it is a dog. A man will believe one is a man. A woman will believe one is a woman. And it is needed. Why? Because consciousness is convinced that it can only function through the senses now. Unfortunately. If I don't eat, how I'll survive? So convinced that, not that I'm suggesting that we should stop eating. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is a conviction that is there. Okay? It's like a person who in a dream is convinced that is being chased by a tiger. Unless until that person is woken up, there's no way that person is going to really want to run away from the tiger in the dream. Okay, so identifying oneself with the dream state. So identifying oneself with this body. Therefore, when the body dies, it seems as consciousness is also dead. Why? Because that which I'm identifying with is lost. This is described as the pain that one feels as death. I don't want to leave. I don't want to die. What will happen to me? It's complete darkness. After death, journey of the soul that has been explained in certain scriptures, the Purans. The person that is very attached to this body finds it so difficult to understand life, existence right at death. Completely lost. Completely fearful. Okay? So it seems that it has. Then, because that awareness is not there, according to certain features, that person is going to travel certain places and take birth somewhere else. We call it as karma fal, the laws of karma. Travel. One may not be aware of what is happening. The laws of karma are aware of what should be done. So they put them in another body. By the time they realize they're in another body, they're already being trained in that body to believe that they are their body. By other people who believe that they are from the same species. So cow will already start training the newborn calf that it is going to be a cow species in its own language. A dog is already going to will immediately start training a new puppy born, just a newborn puppy. Happy birthday. This is daddy. This is mommy. These are brothers, sisters. This is our society. We have to be careful of carnivorous animals. Deer will start doing that to the baby deer. So that phase of confusion, because that consciousness is gone, that I am a man, this consciousness is not that I'm a deer, is not ready as yet. That phase is a very terrible phase for the living entity, for the spirit soul. After death and before taking another birth. The person that is aware is not detached, but somehow or the other is going to take up another body. That person does not get confused. It's less painful, less um, um, less ignorance. That stage for someone who's aware, who's has a lot of realized knowledge. Is that all right? So why does consciousness? Why are we asking this question? Is because I thought that this is what I'm thinking is that what you're asking is, does the consciousness as a human being die? As a man, as a woman die? Yeah, because that consciousness began with birth. If it is going to die. But that is not complete consciousness. Complete consciousness is how we are connected to Krishna in birth, in death, between birth and death. After death also. So this is how consciousness can exhibit itself. It does that. Okay? So now coming to the point of, from there, is the consciousness of a kid and an adult different? Yes, it is. Because as a kid, the consciousness is completely convinced that it is a kid. As an adult, the consciousness is completely convinced it is an adult. Where is the training coming from? The other adults around. The other adults around are telling you, you're a kid, you're a kid, you're a kid, you're a kid. You start believing you're a kid. Suddenly, all of a sudden, everyone around says, now you've grown up, you're an adult. And you have to believe that you're an adult. They have laws according to that. Correct? Okay. Is the consciousness of good and bad different? Obviously, it is different because people around you have defined what is good, what is bad. Tomorrow, or in a different land, that which was good in one land is considered bad in another land. Done. You come from one country, in my country, this was good. Sorry, this country, laws are different. So now the consciousness has to be different. Does it make sense? Why? Because the group of living entities around us who have spent more time in that species, they convince us. From here, you can understand how important satsang is. This is the idea of why satsang is important. So that helps. That question is answered. Okay. Coming to the second part of your question is Jay and Vijay, right? See, in the instance of Jay and Vijay, and in our instances, most of our instances practically, the clear difference is Jay and Vijay did not want to come to this world. They never expressed a desire to be here. There were certain circumstances because of which they were given a choice how long they would want to spend in this world. They have to come to this world from Vaikuntha. So they were given a return ticket along with, it was to and fro. They were already given that from the management. For us, it is a two-way ticket, but both ways we have to pay for it. The management is not involved. So why in case of Jay and Vijay the management is involved, and why in our case, we are held more responsible for our actions? Because this consciousness also has this unique quality of free will. Free will means, do I want to keep staying there or do I want a change of place? Well, if you want a change of place, then you'll have to submit yourself to birth, that all. Yeah, maybe I should take a chance. So when we take a chance, we are here. It's like, do you want to go bungee jumping? What if it snaps? That rope to which I'm attached, it snaps. I'll fall to my death. Well, that is always possible, but so many people have done it and it's never snapped. Do I want to do it? Do I don't want to do it? Some of us may say we don't want. No, why take that kind of risk? Just eat some idli sambar dosa. Enjoy. Have fun doing that. Some of us may feel like that. Some of us may feel, but that is, I want to do something different in my life. Let me take this step. I do bungee jumping. It's a free will. Then there are some people that will be forced. If there's a dictator, the dictator says you have to do bungee jumping. Right? So dictators are generally bad, but the word dictator comes from dictation. Dictate. Dictate means to follow another's instruction. So Jay and Vijay had to follow someone else's instruction. Therefore they came. Yeah. So their case is not of somebody who was there and then came here. So that's the difference between the two. Now, in our case, is there a possibility that we can again come back from the spiritual world? There's always a possibility. Why? Free will. That is why. Is there a possibility that we'll again misuse our free will? Chances are practically zero. Once we've used a free will to come here, we realize this place does not really have so many, it is not really worth it. So then we go back and we realize that the place that we have gone back to, that is worth anything and everything. And most probably we are not going to use our free will again to experience this place. So what is being trusted is our ability as individual conscious beings to not misuse our free will a second time. That is being trusted here. Because as conscious beings, we are in complete knowledge. So being in complete knowledge would be again want to go through those challenges coming to this material world. Hence, going back to the spiritual world, we will not be coming back. What if we do come back? Then the chances, the only way we can come back is if there is, we are dictated to come back here, go there. But in that case, we'll be given a free return ticket. That will be assured. That a return ticket will be there. Does that help? That was third part. Why do we forget?
Yeah, why forget?
If I use my free will for a certain action, and that action is going to be detrimental for me, but I am like, how do I know it's going to be detrimental for me? So I come here, perform that action, right? So already I understand that it's not working out. So should I use my time and my energy in trying to figure out how I should make amends? Or should I also be bothered by this depressive thought that, oh, I made a mistake? I was so fool. I was so stupid. If that baggage is still there, it's difficult, or it simply is a hurdle in making amends. So for the baggage not to be there, it's important we forget. We forget that we made the wrong use of a free will. We forget that the entire scene. We just have a generic idea that yeah, misuse of free will was a very generic idea should be there. But the remembrance of how it happened is simply a baggage. Right now, it's not needed. Once we make all the amends, once we correct ourselves, we go back to the spiritual world, then we'll have all the data. Okay? At that time, it's no longer a baggage, it is just a piece of information. Isn't it? Otherwise, some of us will feel very bad, we'll go into depression. How could I do it? How was I so stupid? Just imagine we give a certain entrance exam and we make a very silly mistake. There's going to be another exam coming up. This time we did not clear. And every time we sit down to study, the thought comes, ये कैसे कर सकता था मैं? इतना silly mistake कैसे कर लिया मैंने? And that is constantly what we are doing. Would we be able to really prepare ourselves again for the exam? What is the best thing? What would our mentors tell you? जो हो गया सो हो गया, भूल जाओ. Isn't that what the mentors say? क्यों भूल जाए भाई? अच्छा नहीं रहेगा, हमें याद रहेगा हमने क्या गलती की, याद रहना चाहिए ना. वो भूल जाओ. Forget that. Put all of your energies in preparing yourself for the upcoming exam. What has happened, you cannot change it. You have a generic idea because you are preparing for this exam again. You did not do well in the previous exam. Have a generic idea of that. Fresh preparation, अच्छे से preparation. Do put all of your energy in just preparing for this exam, upcoming exam. It's helpful. Generic idea होना चाहिए. Is that okay? All three parts? ठीक. Play of words अभी लग रहा है? थोड़ा clear हो रहा है? हाँ, clear है? Karthik, then okay. So when Karthik came here and put the garland, he said, "I'm Karthik." So I remember that. could also be an enemy. Yes, question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So I have a follow-up question regarding consciousness, the topic consciousness, and also I have a straightforward question. So talking about sleep, deep sleep, sleep is being viewed as a temporary detachment of a sensory world, giving a respite to the soul for rejuvenation. But the mind still works, and that's why we get dreams.
Right.
So how does one cultivate mindfulness, Krishna consciousness, even during sleep? And how is the sleep being used as a metaphor of ignorance per Vedantas? So that's about consciousness follow. And my straightforward question is how to overcome fear and anxiety through Krishna consciousness. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So the first part of the question is related to sleep. I think in two parts. One is the metaphysical aspect of sleep, the metaphor of sleep in philosophy, in Krishna consciousness. That's the second part. And the first part is that in sleep there is some dissociation from your awake state. So the sensual awareness is practically zero in terms of you being aware of it. Correct? That is the first part. So, sorry, I lost the link. So, related to this, what was the question?
The question is like how does a person cultivate mindfulness?
Correct.
And also Krishna consciousness?
Dreams.
Moderate sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
So, therefore, in this state where there is some dissociation, there are events known as dreams, and those dreams can the taste of those dreams can linger. You remember some of those dreams, and there are so many things that can happen to you because of that. Happiness in terms of your emotions in the wakeful state. So, how to be mindful, especially the way the mind works, how to be mindful. That we uh, use the mind in the most productive way, right? We want to be very productive, so mindful. And the second part is the metaphor, correct? Okay. Matter, it's the way it was constructed, produced, its existence is dependent on two aspects: date of manufacturing and date of expiry. Matter is always, its existence is with a beginning and an end. So, since this is a material body, every day it needs to have a beginning and an end. And therefore, metaphorically, sometimes sleep is not even called as ignorance, it is also called as death. Or death can be called as deep sleep, whichever way, metaphorically. So, matter will always have a beginning and an end, which basically means it starts, which is a peak. So, there's the incline, then there's a decline, it will stop. This body, the way it functions is, its incline will be at sunrise. At sunrise, the incline begins because this body is very, very photosensitive. Just like plants, they need photosynthesis, except seaweeds, deep seaweeds. They have different ways to process. Their metabolism works a little differently. But our human body, as humans, the sun's rays, sunlight plays a very important part, a major part. The body starts receiving energy at sunrise and it starts losing energy at sunset. If you don't do anything to this body, it will start gaining energy at sunrise. If there's a way we can measure its potential at sunrise and its potential at sun and the potential difference, we'll find the potential difference. At sunrise, its potential is increasing, potential energy is increasing, and sunset, after sunset, it decreases. So we are called as dinachar, which means living beings of the day, and there are others that are nishachar, beings of the night. So we are dependent on direct sunlight, not indirect sunlight. Our organs similarly stay more healthy in direct sunlight than in indirect sunlight. So the more you stay indoors and confined and you do not face sunlight, your organs slowly will show the effect because they need direct sunlight. Indirect sunlight is not very helpful. But we as conscious beings, we do not want to end anything. We always want it to go on. The body will not support us because the body has to shut itself down. When will the body shut itself down? Left to itself, it will shut itself down to a certain extent every sunset. After sunset, typically the way of the body shutting down, slowing down is going towards sleep. So sleep is the way where the body can try and keep itself in hibernation mode. Whatever energy is left at sunset, throughout the day it gathers energy, it works, so much energy is used up. So with whatever energy the body is left with, it wants to retain that till it can restart gaining energy again. Hence sleep kicks in at night, typically. That makes sense. Now what is sleep? Now in very poetic words, we'll say that sleep is where the body rejuvenates itself. Very poetic. Typically it means that the body does not want to spend any more energy because now it will be net energy loss for the body. It's not gaining anything. No sunlight, no direct sunlight. So when as soon as it is dark, no direct sunlight, it's very, very difficult not to fall asleep. When we have all these lights on, the screen on, this is indirect sunlight. Photons are there, right? And we pay for it. That keeps us awake because the body starts feeling that it is getting some stimulus for producing energy. That makes sense now? Sleep. So when the body is going off to sleep, consciously we are thinking that now I am shutting down. Because if I don't consciously think that, then the body wants to rest, but we want to push it. That will relate to a lot of disassociation. We'll start thinking that why is it that I cannot keep awake? Who am I? So it could be, it leads to a lot of mental issues. That is why psychiatrists would always tell, if you go for some help for mental challenges, they'll say, take good sleep. First of all, take good sleep, good rest. This is the reason. Because the body is not getting sufficient support from us, or we are not happy with the body not giving us support as I being a human being. Hence, consciously we have to also shut down. How does that happen? Right from birth, people around you will sleep, go to sleep, because they have seen the benefits of that. A baby, when it is born, it doesn't know when to sleep. When it feels tired, it goes off to sleep, sometimes during the day, during the night. But why is the training given? Because since many generations, adult humans have figured out through generations. Every generation has passed it on to the next generation. Sleep is good for you. Sleep is good for you. Within their generations, they have seen people who are not having good sleep at night. They've seen them behave differently, not very productively. So that is how it happens, through social, um, what do you say? Social pressure or social habits. Now, once you're asleep, you lose your ability because there's a shutdown. Therefore, you lose your ability to think yourself as this embodied body. Just as death, the body now has to leave you. So you lose your ability to think that you are a human being because you are dissociated from the body. So here during sleep, because the body is shutting down, you identify yourself as shutting down. The dissociation happens. So now you are not aware that you are even the body in sleep. Okay? You have no idea. You are a man, you are a woman, you are a body, you are a kid, etc. Nothing in sleep. Now the human body, this body, it functions, even in the sleep state, it functions. Basic metabolic functions have to go on. So the larger data that we are receiving through the senses, that we have lost. But existence as matter, which is alive, will make the senses receive minimal data. If it is cold, it will receive that. If it is hot, it will receive that. If it is soft, it will receive that. Which means the senses are still functioning, but they are not within our control right now, as in the awake state. So as soon as the body being in a particular position against a hard surface prevents the flow of energy within the body, it hurts the body. In biological terms, it means that when your blood vessels get compressed, if you're lying back on your back, then the blood vessels on the back are getting compressed. Slowly, gravity is acting and it is compressing it. There will be pain. But this pain will not be felt by you consciously. It will be felt by you subconsciously. Which basically means right now you are not in control of the body is in control of you to a larger extent. So now you have to take turns. You have to turn the body. When I say take turns, you have to change your position. Scientists have understood that this happens every 45 minutes. So they define this phase as REM sleep and non-REM sleep. REM sleep is where the control over your body is very minimal. Very minimal. In fact, the body is in your control. That is called as deep sleep. REM is rapid eye movement. So the eye can never be stationary. When it is dead, it will be stationary. If it is alive, it can never be stationary. Why? Because the eye has involuntary muscles. Rest of the body has voluntary muscles. The eye, the heart, they have got involuntary muscles. So when you close your eyelids, but you have lost voluntary control over the eye, the involuntary control hits in. So when the involuntary control is hidden, there are certain muscles that are on the top of the eye, certain muscles on the bottom of the eye. So because of the difference of the muscular action in the both, the eye constantly moves. So when one is in deep sleep, the eyes inside, if this is there, you'll see it moving. You'll start wondering if the person is sleeping or is faking sleep. But actually that person is in deep sleep. That is called as rapid eye movement. 45 minutes later, because it is in deep sleep, the body is stationary. Now the body has to move. A little bit of the consciousness kicks in. Sometimes when you're in a plane and there's a lag, they increase the plane's velocity and you feel that sudden. So that is what the body does every 45 minutes. That is called as non-REM sleep. Now the eyes become still, non-rapid movement, still, which basically means voluntary function has become more strong now. Okay. Now it is during this rapid the non-REM, when the voluntary functions are a little more stronger than the involuntary functions, the brain has to kick in, because the brain is that which controls voluntary functions and involuntary functions. The brain stem does parts of the brain. So the brain has to kick in. It has to, a little starter is given to the brain. Now when the starter is given to the brain, other areas of the brain also get activated. What are some of those areas? Some of those areas are areas of your memory, desires. Now there is no filter that disconnects or connects in a particular way memories and desires. Make sense? So memory, gold. Memory, mountain. Desire, golden mountain. There's no filter. It gets mixed up. So you'll start having dreams of a golden mountain. Now when you wake up, if that lingers, then you start wondering, how is it I can dream of a golden mountain? How does it exist? Tiger, fear of tiger, I running away from the tiger. Mixed up in a dream, you feel the tiger is chasing you, and you're running away from the tiger. So you understand what is. So when you're in that state between wakefulness and deep sleep, that is when you have dreams. Now, since your question is specific in relationship to dreams and mindfulness, only that aspect I'll address right now. If in your wakeful state, you have learned how not to be too attached to desires and memories. They may be there, memories are there, desires are there, but you learn the art of keeping them dissociated very, very strongly. That is called as the art of detachment. You increase the possibility of having dreamless sleep. You increase your capability of having dreamless sleep. Why? Because those connections, associations become very, very weak, loose. So when the brain kicks in during non-REM sleep, it does not make that khichdi, does not do that. Okay? So how does Krishna consciousness help you? The idea of leading a detached life, which is another topic in itself, is what helps you cut the connections that are there, memory, desires within your brain. It keeps them in their respective pockets. There's no connection between the two. It does not allow them to connect. Now that can happen physically also. A doctor can help you do that. They know how to do it. They go into your brain. Certain aspects of your memories they can really cut and help you really, if they identify where they are. That is what science is trying to do right now. Things that can happen physically, they also happen chemically. Right? Catheterization, chemical catheterization it is called as. One way of chemical catheterization is introducing chemicals, the other way is you produce those chemicals. Detachment produces such chemicals within you. It is a science. The idea of detachment is not just an emotional feeling. It is that which reconstructs the biological functions of you and me as biological beings.
So it balances the chemical imbalance in the body.
You could call it imbalance. It, in terms of detachment, what it does, it provides what is necessary at that point of time. Imbalance is because the body has provided that which is unnecessary. That is why there's imbalance. The body has created unnecessary chemicals.
I think that kind of touched upon my second question about anxiety and fear, how to overcome.
Yes. The whole understanding. Now, if you just take the Bhagavad Gita, the whole understanding that Krishna gives us, where from are you getting all of this anxiety? Learn to tolerate. Just tolerate situations in your life. Just tolerate the effects of whatever comes in your life. Sitoshna Sukha Dukkhada. Agama. So why can I, how should I tolerate? Right now, whatever is happy, tomorrow it will go. Right now, what is painful, sometime it will go. Either you'll develop tolerance to it, indifference to it, therefore it will go, or situation is going to change. Today, whatever is painful, tomorrow it will go away. Today, whatever is harmful, tomorrow means in the future it will go away. That is how time works. So just tolerate. Tolerate does not mean being inactive. It just means, it means that even if you should always be active, but you should not be bogged down by the effects of these events on you. For example, a soldier, that's very, very graphic example. A soldier has so many splinter wounds. But if a soldier decide, who's that? Yogendra Yadav? Or you may find out Kargil war, entire arm cut off, so many splinter wounds, practically left for dead, somehow survived, came back with his arm down that hill. Read, I think it was Tololing or something. If you know Kargil war, you may find out Yogendra Yadav. Very graphic example of somebody who in that situation was beyond all that pain, intense pain. An arm completely detached, completely detached. It's not even hanging, detached. Not an arm, maybe a hand or something like that. Blast or bullet completely ripped off his. Picked it up. The other arm is still, all the nerves are still. So I'm just giving you a graphic. What I'm saying is that detachment. What is detachment? Detachment is you do not let the emotions of certain activities overpower you. You focus on what is needed to be done. Anxiety and fear typically are emotional states born out of the confusion as to what could be the outcome. Anxiety is what could be the outcome. Fear is what if the outcome is not good. Correct? Born out of that. That prevents you from really being fully productive in the present. So Krishna is saying tolerate that. Tolerate it means those things and the effects of those things, whatever is causing anxiety, those events are not going to go away. They'll be with you for some time. Tomorrow they'll go away. But right now, whatever opportunities you have, focus on it. Make the best use of those opportunities. So why did he suggest that to Arjun? Because Arjun was trained as a very, very expert soldier. A soldier is trained to do that. That is a soldier's training. So when we speak that this is how we must tolerate, what basically it means is that first of all you have to go to boot camp and do well in the boot camp. Then that training will help you. Sometime in the future, that training will help you being mindful in ways that is productive for you. Is that helpful? Yeah.
Deep.
Is it really deep?
I mean, the conscious, the way you explain with medical terms and everything, but it's very helpful to understand from a layman's perspective, and then connecting back to what Krishna said to Arjuna, that you need to be ready even to kill your own cousins and members because that is your duty on that particular day in the Bible says, right? So, and again, detachment, not just the material, if I understand, but also emotions, feelings.
Yeah. A little different. Krishna told Arjuna that if they do not understand that you will be doing your duty, thinking that what they are doing is their duty, then you may have to kill them. So duty is not just Arjuna being a fighter. It's also, for example, somebody on the opposite side decides that, hey, I suddenly realize that this is not the right side I'm on. Arjun doesn't have to kill that person. So he has to be mindful, very mindful. And all this training is given to a soldier. Even in today's times, a soldier is given those trainings. Every day, all those practices that are put through is simply developing these characteristics within a soldier. Basically, the discipline and the strict regimen that is there. And anyone can adopt a good discipline and a strict regimen, and they will also develop a very similar qualities as a soldier is forced to do through the training. A soldier is forced because the soldier volunteered to be forced. We can volunteer to be forceful in our lives personally, individually. Is that okay? Okay. Yes.
So, part of my question was already answered. I'll just ask one more follow-up. So, we talked about intelligence and consciousness. Then, where does the mind come into picture?
Okay.
And one follow-up question on that one is that you said like tolerate, right? Tolerate or detachment. So, each soul is different in terms of tolerance and detachment. How can we, through Krishna conscious practice, become more tolerant? Like, with what mood should we, like, how can we develop more tolerance?
All right. So, two questions. The first one is, what about the mind? Now we understand consciousness, intelligence. What about the mind? What is its function? And the second question is, does everyone have different colors of tolerance or different flavors of tolerance,
Levels.
different levels? That would kind of bring about an hierarchy. Then I would be accused of being racist or fascist. And flavors appears to be good. But yeah, different levels of tolerance. And secondly, part B of that is, in Krishna consciousness, what would be my flavor of tolerance that I should accept? Right?
How can I become more tolerant through Krishna? Like for my,
How-
through my spiritual practice.
Through my spiritual practice, how can I become more tolerant in my practices, right? Okay. So first part, consciousness and how consciousness exhibits itself, that is clear, right? Through different bodies. This is me. Intelligence has to facilitate the information that the senses gets and connect it with the consciousness. That which feels this is I, this is the body, right? Now, what does the as soon as the Chetana, the consciousness, is aware of that analysis, what to do with it? So intelligence could be your research and analysis department. This product is new product for development. Now you have to sell it, right? Product, there has to be a sales person, sales department. What does the sales department do? Try to sell it and come back to us and say, this works, this does not work. It gives us, the sales department gives us real-time feedback. Isn't it? This works, this does not work. So whatever analysis we have done, is it helping us to be productive or not? Can be understood in two ways. Yes, it is productive. No, it is not productive. Right? Yes, it is helpful for us. No, it is not helpful for us. That is through experience. That is through deployment, through sales. Intelligence analyzes. Intelligence is only research, analysis, research, and analysis. That is what intelligence does. This is good for me. I should do it, or I should not do it. That sales department is the mind. The mind comes to you with the final decision. Intelligence gives you options. Filters gives you options. This is good, this is not good. The mind says, yes, we go with this product. No, we cannot go with this product. Now you ask the mind, what is the basis of your analysis? You say, the market. But no, did you do any research on initial data? No, that the research and analysis department does. So whatever the mind comes up with, whatever the intelligence comes up with, the mind takes a decision, yes, this is according to my desire, this is not according to my desire. But the mind is called as a repository of desires, to do or not to do. Make sense? So who is the mind? The mind is a charioteer. No, the reins. The mind is a reins. Where you are going to pull the horses, to do or not to do. So if it is to do, then the senses will be engaged in getting more data from those sources. If the information is not to do, the senses will stop getting more data from those sources. Get more data, more analysis by the intelligence, passes on it to the consciousness, the mind, yes or no. Gives a feedback, yes, more data, no, no more data. Therefore, the minds are the reins connected to the horses. Give more data or don't give data anymore.
Does the mind control the free will? Like what is?
Free will is the expression of the consciousness. So if the consciousness is bogged down by the idea of a false narrative, then that consciousness has false ego. So the free will is exhibited through their ego. I will do it. Mind says, you have decided not to do it. But the ego says, I don't listen to anyone. For example, mind has desire to watch a certain something on the screen. Intelligence has filtered data. You have only 8 hours for the next exam. If you take out half an hour of screen time, maybe it will be a good break. The false ego says, I am someone that is not distracted. Because the false ego says, I can do it. I can stay without screen time. The ego says that. So you push yourself. Maybe it will help. There's a possibility that because you're not taking a break, you'll reach a breaking point. Just being pushed by your ego. Okay? So is the free will being exhibited? No. The false ego has taken over your capacity of free will. I can do it. I can stay without screen time. Fast. I can stay without drinking water. Intelligence telling you, you practically fainted. The mind tells you that your desire is to fast. Right? You should continue fasting. It is good. But the mind tells you, the last time you did not fast, it was all right. Nothing happens. So desires are there like that in the mind. The intelligence will give you various analysis. If your false ego is that I want to prove that I can do it, and then you use your independence in only one way, because you want to prove a point. So the mind is not really associated with free will. The mind is simply the sales party. It is not the owner of the company. The owner of the company is consciousness, which right now is overcome by the ego. So ego becomes the shadow owner of the company. Right? So now I bring in another element other than the intelligence and the mind, the ego too. Is that all right? So free will. The second question was about tolerance and are there different levels of tolerance. If we only consider ourselves to be humans, we forget that there are other species of life. If we only consider ourselves as humans, we also forget that we have gender differences, which basically means that primarily we can divide ourselves as two species, males and females, rather than just human beings. So there are so many ways we have distinctions. So many ways. So we may be females, but we may be someone may be more tall, someone may be a little short. Tolerance is dependent on all of these factors too. Why? Because the way you tolerate is also exhibited through the surface area of your body and the surface area of your mental mind. It's not just the mind, it's also the surface area of the body. Okay. So as if the surface area of a body is short, if it is tall, if it is more girth, if it is lean, etc., 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 whatever. If you're more tanned, if you're less tanned, depending upon whether you're at the equator or the poles, there's going to be difference in how the physical body is going to tolerate things. Okay. Then there's a mental landscape too. So what has to be tolerated? It is the emotions that influence you that you should learn to tolerate. Emotions, even your own personal emotions, are very different every single day. So obviously, the level of tolerance that you're going to have are going to be a little different every single day. So is there a base level, something that can be, or a common platform which will help you deal with multiple aspects or multiple scenarios of being intolerant? Is there something like detachment? What is detachment? So whether it is this or whether it is just the opposite, whatever situation it may be, it could be happiness, distress, it could be heat, cold, it could be honor, dishonor. That is called as duality or dvandva. If you learn to be tolerant in dvandva, in dualities, then that perspective in life helps you deal with so many various scenarios of tolerance and intolerance. Dvandva. What is dvandva? Like in terms of happiness. Happiness, distress is simply me interacting with the elements. Why am I interacting with the elements? It is not to be happy or to be distressed. It is because I need to do it. If I do it and it is happy, it is a little more helpful. If I do it and it is distress, it is a little more difficult. But I need to do it. Like Krishna telling Arjun, stand up and fight. Because you need to fight. Maybe you'll have to, when you fight, you'll kill some of your loved ones. Maybe they will kill some of your loved ones. Stand up and fight in all situations. But if they kill my loved ones, won't I be indifferent? Well, you have to stand up and fight. Now the time is to fight. Once the fight is over, then you can address all those other aspects. Right now, what is important is You stand up and fight. After the war, he told Yudhishthir, now it is important that you take care of all those who are alive, their emotions, address them. Yudhishthir is like, I'm so confused, I'm the cause of the war. So you have to take him to Bhishma there, learn from him, learn lessons. Because now Yudhishthir was getting confused. All right? Because he was getting confused, there was no need for him to fight a war. He had to go and get important lessons from somebody who was on a bed of arrows. You see, what Krishna is trying to explain is, if you understand that in every situation there is you time will give you opportunities to be productive. Certain situations when those opportunities come, it is going to be a little more difficult. Certain situations when those opportunities come, it is going to be a little more easy. When it is a little more easy, don't get blown away by that. Don't get just completely immersed in that and lose yourself. When it becomes a little more difficult, don't get pushed by it. Don't get subdued by it. Do your best. So when it is easier, don't get swept away by those emotions. And when it is difficult, don't be subdued by those emotions. Just do your best in that situation. Why? Because that is what you're expected to do. You're not expected to be swept away by that which is easy. You're not expected to be subdued by that which is difficult. That is not expected. So, what is a common platform of how we can be tolerant in our practices? Slowly but surely, try to be tolerant, or equipoise is the word he uses. Tam titikshasva bharata. Learn to be titikshu, tolerant, equipoised in dvandva. How? Today these senses, the senses that receive information, are making you feel that these are very happy sensations. Tomorrow these very senses could make you feel the same data is painful. For example, these very senses are going to tell you that this cold is very painful when it is winter. And these very senses are going to tell you this cold is very nice in summer. So in summer, don't get swept away by this. Just tolerate it. Know that it is right now here, make the best use of it. It will go away. In winter, don't be subdued by that. Don't be distracted by it. Know that it is going to go away in some time. Make the best use of that situation. Okay? Same with honor, dishonor, happiness, distress, heat, cold, whatever else, dark, light. Try to make the best use of the situation that you're in. Okay? Is that helpful? So we'll stop here. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada. I was thinking about the point when you said that even though like Arjuna was not he was not ready to fight, Krishna said that no, you have to fight. So practically speaking, sometimes in our lives we know that we're supposed to do this, but due to some reason, for example, I'm a student now and I'm searching for jobs. And there are some days I don't feel like applying for jobs because I'm not getting through. It's a very difficult process, but I know that I'm not supposed to stop. I'm supposed to keep going. But some days it's not possible. Even as you said that you have to force yourself, but even forcing ourselves sometimes doesn't work. Then what should we do in that situation? I mean, we know the shlokas, we know that he has said this, but even that sometimes doesn't work.
So is it okay if you do Damodar Ashtakam and then you can talk and should that okay?
Is that all right? Should we do Damodar Ashtakam and then continue? Everyone agrees to it? Thank you very much.
Whoever wants to sing? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Is there any more?